We go back to Washington, now to one of our friends from the Heritage Foundation, the director of the Allen Center for Foreign and National Security Policy. Steve Bucci, good morning to you from Heritage in Washington. Thanks for taking time to be with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on the show.
Steve, obviously your background is in national defense, national security. When we think about Ebola, and while people talk about an epidemic, there is the reality in the here and now of possible weaponization. Is it conceivable that a group like ISIS or someone wanting to do us in and do us ill would weaponize something like this Ebola virus?
There have been a lot of folks who have attempted. Ebola, because it is such a virulent disease, seems to be attractive for people, particularly novelists and movie makers, as a bioweapon. Fortunately, it's kind of a poor choice for that. Not discounting what's going on. This is a horrendous outbreak and we need to deal with it. I don't think we need to worry right now about weaponization of this particular disease.
Well, let's get back to the wars in Washington, the battle of the bureaucracy, and what transpires. We heard my former colleague Frank Wolf in that subcommittee yesterday saying that we had underestimated really the impact of Ebola. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I think it's caught everyone by surprise. This particular outbreak has been much bigger, much broader than others in the past, mainly because in the past it's been in more isolated rural areas. This one has kind of gotten out, and the increased mobility of people in that part of the world has allowed it to spread more rapidly than these previous outbreaks have done.
And Steve, also, Congressman Wolf also brought up another point. He said that the CDC has no available registry of medical facilities capable of treating Ebola patients in the United States. He says he's concerned about the gaps in our protocol to deal with this. Do you agree with that? Is that a fair assessment to make?
Well, I mean, the CDC normally doesn't run its own medical facilities. It connects with existing ones, like the hospital at Emory, where the 2 Americans were brought that came here with Ebola. I would say that that's probably a little more of a concern than, or a little less of a concern than the congressman really is portraying. I think the CDC, they're a management organization and a science organization, and I think they have a pretty good handle on this. Now,
but what about what happened with anthrax?
I'm sorry, say again?
Sorry to interrupt you, Steve, but we all recall the situation where the CDC mishandled some live anthrax bacteria. You recall that. So it has a lot of people questioning their safety. The CDC saying we can handle this, we have safety measures in check, so no one needs to be alarmed. But then we heard not too long ago that there were some live strains of the anthrax bacteria that they weren't aware were live and that certain people came into contact with. So is it valid for people to be concerned?
The anthrax problem, while very important and not a good thing, is really not indicative of the professionalism of the CDC. They are a national treasure. I have to tell you, they are the best of the best. They're the best in the world at public health issues, and that anthrax screw up aside, their record is pretty darned exemplary as far as their capability to protect us and to help the whole world fight this one.
Okay, looks like we're having a little trouble with the Skype transmission, but let's try again. Steve, your resume includes a good stint at the Pentagon. Are there parallels between public health and a military operation, at least in terms of public policy and administration? Are there some parallels between what the CDC and our public health guys are going through as to what you had to deal with in national security at the Pentagon?
There is, and I also was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Homeland Defense, and pandemic illnesses was part of my portfolio. So yes, that military-style planning, that organization is very similar. A bio-attack looks an awful lot like an outbreak of a pandemic disease. So the protocols are very similar, and the actions taken are pretty much the same.
Is the U.S. partially to blame, though, for this epidemic, would you say? Congressman Wolf basically has been very critical of the administration, saying that the U.S. did not do enough and could have done more to prevent it getting as bad as it did in Africa.
Well, I think saying we're to blame for it is way out of line. If we did not respond fast enough, if we did not throw enough assets at it, I guess that's a debatable point. Those countries have to ask for that help before we give it. We don't just arrive unbidden. And I don't know whether those countries asked for that help as quickly as they should have or not. It's kind of similar to the Katrina event, where the governor has to ask for federal help before the feds can show up.
Well, Steve Bucci, we appreciate your insights there from the Heritage Foundation. As a former officer in our Army Special Forces, you certainly have fought a variety of battles in real life, including the battle of the bureaucrats there in Washington. Your insights on what we may be dealing with the Ebola virus, greatly appreciated this morning. Thanks so much for your time, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Well, now, what are your thoughts about Ebola? You can tweet us your comments at Newsmax TV, hashtag America's Forum. There's also newsmaxtv.com/comment, and don't forget Facebook.